Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you joining us this afternoon for Open Education Week. If we haven't met yet in another session, I'm Erin Maney and I work with SUNY Online. I help manage the community engagement area. It's my pleasure to welcome you today. We're pleased to host Tony DeFranco from SUNY OER Services along with Josh Barron from Lumen Learning. Tony and Josh are going to be sharing about Lumen's online homework manager, courseware and tools, and a little bit about SUNY OER Services. So welcome you both of you. And I will turn it over to Tony, I think is going first.
Thanks, Erin. I appreciate that. And hopefully you can see my slides. Thanks so much, Erin, again, for all that you've done this week and all that the SUNY Online team has done this week for hosting these presentations and these discussions. And we've learned a lot about the exciting work going on around OER and open pedagogy happening on campuses across the system this week. And we've got more exciting and interesting conversations coming up as well. My name is Tony DeFranco. I'm the Director of User Support Services for SUNY OER Services. Josh Barron, obviously joining me. He's the Executive Director for New York at Lumen Learning. Just a little background on SUNY OER Services. We operate under SUNY's Office of Library and Information Services. And our goal really is ensuring that SUNY faculty are aware of OER and have the ability to choose high quality peer-reviewed learning material. We provide a menu of services around teaching and learning with OER, one of which is our catalog featuring 120 accessible and easily customizable courses, and more are being added periodically. These courses are aimed at empowering faculty choice and improving student learning. As most or maybe all of us on this call know, OER gives faculty academic freedom where they can revise and remix content to match the plan for their courses. So it really does put the control back in your hands. Our catalog is available, of course, at oer.suny.edu. I won't spend too much more time on that because I think Josh is probably going to talk about that as well. Before turning it over to Josh, I'd like to acknowledge our partners. SUNY OER Services has a fairly large network of partners who provide critical supports and offerings, which allows us to leverage existing services in SUNY, such as the help desk support provided by SUNY Online Support Services. Some of you may subscribe to their services and they do a tremendous job in providing quick and thorough support. SUNY CPD, they provide training and other professional development activities. SUNY Press, who provide publishing and print services. RPK Group, many of you or some of you may have worked with them. They assist campuses with sustainable business models. And of course, other key partners like Lumen Learning and the Open Learning Initiative at Carnegie Mellon University. The overall goal within these partnerships really is to increase the success for SUNY students in their classes, whether it's in the face-to-face format or hybrid or high flex or fully online. Currently in SUNY, with collaboration from our partners, we serve over 2,000 faculty who teach with OER and over 435,000 students who are enrolled in at least one OER course. As Erin mentioned, this session is going to focus on Lumen's Online Homework Manager, or OHM. It's really used for quantitative courses such as math and accounting. There's also some chemistry in there. OHM features student engagement tools that use data to identify struggling students. Of course, as mentioned, the content is customizable and meets accessibility standards. So without further ado, and here to talk more about OHM is my colleague from Lumen Learning, Josh Barron, and I'll stop sharing there. Josh?
Thanks a lot, Tony. I will share my screen here. A sec. So I will start with what I forgot to do on Monday, which is to also thank Erin and everybody else and Tony for organizing and supporting these sessions during Open Ed Week. It's always great to kind of bring people together for these conversations around open content. I see a number of new names actually, but I also see Sophia here, who is probably 10 times more knowledgeable about the platform than I am. So hopefully you'll jump in here, Sophia, and share your experiences and correct me where I make mistakes. So quick rundown, what I'm going to try to cover here in the time that we have. Whoops, there we go. Going to do a real quick introduction to Lumen for folks that don't know much about us, but I'll just spend one quick slide on that. take a moment or two to define what we generally mean by ready to adopt OER courses. That's a kind of internal term that we use in SUNY often, but not everybody might be familiar with it. So I'll touch on that. And I'll spend most of the time actually showing the online homework manager platform, some of its capabilities, again, in this area, kind of especially supporting quantitative assessments for students, and also some of the customization capabilities. And then I'll end that part by making sure everybody knows where to go to find all of the different, what we call course templates in the system, which are kind of already set up math, accounting, and chemistry courses. So you can go and adopt your own. And then it does integrate with learning management systems. And I'll do a quick demo of that. It's the last part here. And then, as Tony said, I'll also make sure everybody knows how to get to the OER, SUNY OER services site, where the Ready to Adopt course catalog that Tony's mentioned is, and how to kind of go and find courses there as well. We've got a good sized group here, but one that's, I think, small enough to do this very interactively. So I would encourage you to use the chat room and then post questions there as we go, or unmute yourself if you prefer. Much rather kind of answer your questions and show things you're interested in than just kind of speak at you. So I assume maybe Tony, and Aaron will monitor the chat room there and let me know if there's anything comes up. So if you're not familiar with Lumen, our mission is really around kind of supporting unprecedented learning for all students. And so we started out originally as focusing on affordability and reducing costs to students as ways to improve learning. And that was about 9 years ago that we got started through some Gates Foundation funding. And we were looking at, really building out these fully full courses using OER content as a way of addressing affordability. A few years into that, we began to realize that moving to OER can increase access and affordability, but it wasn't really moving the needle far enough for us in terms of improving student learning, final course grades, completion rates, things like that. So we began to combine open educational resources with advanced kind of analytics-based courseware, digital courseware platforms. I'll speak to the two that we kind of focus on right now, OHM being one of those. And as means to improve student learning. So the idea is bringing together OER with these platforms allows us to reduce costs, but at the same time, improve those learning outcomes and success rates. And you can imagine that's a tricky thing. Usually when you make something less expensive, the quality goes down. So making it less expensive and having things improve, certainly challenging work, but we've accomplished a lot of that. And I have some data that I can show here if people are interested towards the end about how we're impacting on student learning. The last part of this is pretty new, something you introduced just this past fall. Again, in our interest of always trying to increase that student learning even beyond where we've been able to in the past, we've started to offer professional development services around evidence-based teaching practices. This is a new program called Lumen Circles. I'm not going to spend time today talking about it unless there's questions around it, but it really allows faculty members to kind of go through a several-week program with your peers where you learn about evidence-based practices and then learn how to apply those using the courseware and actually get a chance to try that out in your courses and get feedback from your peers. And SUNY is one of the places around the country that's really kind of doing a lot of that, using or having a lot of faculty members go through that program, and it's been, I think, very, very successful, although pretty new still. Any questions there before I move on to the probably more interesting stuff for you? As I said on Monday, I have no problem where I love all these virtual sessions. I wish we could beam coffee out to people because I missed that in our face-to-face workshops. Yep, sorry, I forgot about this. So this is a list of the around 55 campuses across SUNY. As Tony said, we've had a long-term partnership over many years. So I think almost all of the institutions, I think there's 65 or so, so vast majority are using, have some use of Lumen courseware. And just to emphasize it, because it's still not aware, everybody isn't aware of this, all of the courseware is free to all SUNY faculty, students, and staff. I also like to share this slide so that if you are maybe at one of these institutions and you'd like to connect up with a faculty member or peer to learn more about what they've been doing, or maybe another institution you're familiar with, want to connect up with them, I'm sure Tony can do that, Mike Daly as well at SUNY OER Services, but I'm happy to make those connections also. Okay, so a little bit here, I'm more of a definition of what we mean by a ready to adopt course. So probably obvious given the theme this week and the topic, but all of these courses use openly licensed materials. And obviously I've already spoken to the ability to reduce cost using open licensed content. I think for many of you, as faculty members, another huge benefit is that customization capability. And you'll see here in a few minutes that the online homework manager platform allows you to do, you start with a full course, but you can, really go down as far as you want, as fine grained as you want in terms of customizing the material. So I think it kind of gives you a really powerful, way of starting with a lot of stuff and then, customizing to meet your students' needs as much as you might want. The other thing that I won't spend too much time talking about is that it also really powers a lot of what I call kind of infrastructure work on our side. So the fact that it's open licensed content allows us to use a data-driven content improvement process. So every year we're looking at data from these platforms, allows us to identify content that's not working well for students and then go in and re-engineer, redevelop that content based on learning sciences to make improvements. And that's really not easily done. If it's almost impossible to do in a more traditional all rights reserved copyright kind of model, because usually the copyright agreements between publishers and the authors restrict them in their ability to make those kinds of improvements quickly, based on data. So that's another kind of, I think, not often talked about, but power that comes along with using openly licensed materials. Ready to adopt might imply this, but just to emphasize it, all these courses include kind of all the ancillary materials. So test bank questions, PowerPoint slides, assignments, pretty much everything other faculty members who work with us to put these courses together think you need to teach the course. And as Tony also said, they all meet accessibility standards, so they're ADA compliant. The online homework manager platform has some really, I think, powerful kind of settings for students. You can imagine for students who might be looking at a graph who are visually impaired, that's a tricky thing sometimes to be able to facilitate, but the platform has some really powerful tools to do that. And if there's interest in me talking or showing those, I'll be happy to do that. Just remind me as we go through the demo. I think I already mentioned it integrates with learning management systems. The online homework manager system can be used by itself as well. So you don't have to integrate it with Blackboard or Moodle or Desire to Learn or say Brightspace or Canvas, but it does integrate, and I'll show that with Blackboard just because of the prevalence in SUNY here towards the end. And also, although this is shifting and changing about their math courses, the majority of courses that the platform supports are kind of general education, high enrollment courses. And this really is a result of the foundation funding that's gone in to fund a lot of this work over the last 10 plus years, has been focused on those types of high enrollment courses because those funders really want to have the biggest impact they can for their dollars, and targeting the courses that most students or the largest number of students go through is part of that strategy. All right. I see questions. I see chats going on, but I'll just assume you guys let me know if there's questions. There's kind of two platforms that we support directly that I consider kind of digital courseware. In SUNY, Waymaker is our personalized learning platform or adaptive learning platform. That's what I presented and talked about on Monday, if anybody was here for that session. So I'm not going to speak to that too much, but you'll see that in the OER Ready to Adopt course catalog. And the idea is really it's going to be integrated with the learning management system and then use a lot of analytics to help personalize the learning experience for students, and then also give you kind of a dashboard where you can see which students are struggling in the course and then have some tools to reach out and kind of do some interventions with those students. And if there's questions or interest in that, happy to talk with people and follow up. As we've been talking about the other session, or what I'll demo here and focus on, is the online homework manager platform. And you can imagine that if you want to go beyond just multiple choice assessments in quantitative subjects like math or accounting, so for example, having students plot points on a graph and be able to actually auto grade their plotting of those points, you really need a more powerful, very customized kind of assessment engine to do that kind of going beyond multiple choice kind of things. And that's really why we have this separate platform to support the math and quantitative subjects, because it's just such a different need there that we've needed to have a different set of technology tools to support that. Okay, so I'm going to move over here and not demonstrate Waymaker because that's the wrong slide. Sorry, I'm going to demonstrate OHM here in a sec. But let me pause, see questions, things that people either wanted to comment on or just ask about here before I jump into to demo stuff. See, I'm supplying my own coffee. Actually, it's tea, but. Okay, so let me switch over to my browser here. And I'm going to kind of start out by showing what the online homework management platform looks like from more of a student perspective. What we're looking at here is what we refer to as a course template. And again, this basically brings together a full digital textbook, math, chemistry, accounting textbook with aligned auto-graded homework problem sets that provide a lot of feedback to students. There's lots of other tools. I'll touch on a few of those, but the fundamental capabilities are really around bringing together that digital OER-based textbook content with the homework, quiz questions, and so forth that are auto-graded. And I think that's what most people find super powerful. In a few minutes, I'll switch over to show you how to find additional templates. This is college algebra. It's just the common one I like to demo, but we have probably 30, 40, maybe almost 50 of these templates now. And so I'll show you how to go find those and get copies of them yourself so you can mess around with them, explore them more, or potentially even use them with your students. So let me scroll down here. You'll see that content's organized into different modules. I'm going to go into one of these just to give you a quick example, again, kind of the student perspective. You'll see that the way that this course template is set up is that there's some content to read, and then there's a practice or a pre-assessment, and there's more content, the more practice, the more content. You'll see that as kind of a running theme throughout all of our materials. This is really coming from learning sciences work over the last couple of decades that really shows that giving students the ability to practice what they've learned, make sure they're fully understanding the concepts deeply before they move on to the next set of materials, and also then correcting any misconceptions they might have before they move on is a really important strategy in terms of improving student learning and course completion rates and so forth. So you'll see that kind of throughout here. So let me just show you one of the blue orb here indicates it's a link out to content. The little notepad here indicates it's a homework problem set. So I'm going to go over to the points of a line in a plane, which is, again, just an example of some digital textbook content that they're going to be looking at here, the students would be. You'll see that every page of content is skill level learning objectives on it. That's not just an important instructional design strategy that we follow with all of our content, but it's also really important to how the data and tools behind the scenes work so that we can really start to look at, okay, if students are struggling on these learning objectives, that tells us maybe there's, or struggling at certain questions, I should say, associated with learning objectives, that tells us that some certain set of content might need to be adjusted and looked at. So I'll just give you, I'll scroll down here, give you a little bit of a orientation here. So this is obviously about coordinate systems. So read a little bit, immediately get a practice question there. They're going to read a little bit more, get a place to see how experts solve the problem and so forth. And then let me scroll down a little bit more to find maybe a little bit. You'll see video help here. So that's a thing students really, I think, find very valuable in math courses, a short little video explaining how to solve the problem and so forth. Then you'll see that throughout the platform. Trying to see if there's a graphing example here. So here's a, excuse me, here's a, well, they're going to be plotting a line here. I just like to show that so you can really see the system can kind of not just do these multiple choice kind of things, but students can plot curves and lines and points and graphs, get those auto-graded. And I think that gives you a good example here. And then anybody who's kind of interested in Creative Commons licenses, at the bottom of each one of these content pages, we do these licensee attribution, which is obviously a requirement of Creative Commons licenses. So this isn't just a place to see those attributions, but you can also get to see who the original developers are and where the content came from. Any questions there as I go forward? All right, so let me go back to the online homework management platform, and you'll see that next up here is a series of practice questions. This has been designed to kind of be ungraded, really just to give students a chance to practice and get feedback. But you could again make this customize it so you could go in and shift this and change it to something that's graded if you were so inclined. But let me just go in and show what those questions look like. Again, similar kind of questions. Student can go through these. There's some video help. You have a lot of fine-grained control over these things. So you could opt to have video help displayed if it's available or not displayed. You can have things displayed after they've attempted a number of times or after they gotten the right answer. And I'll show those settings here in a minute. But again, it just gives you a lot of control over how this gets delivered to the students, not just the setup itself or the content itself. Okay, so if that's making sense, come back here. So you can see the same kind of cadence, and then they're going to go on to read about equations of lines, and they get some more practice. I kind of skipped over it, but I should have noted that there's also a pre-assessment here that covers all these topics. And that's really useful to give to students both to inform themselves about where maybe they have some strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you have some adult learners that are coming back. Maybe they, took some math courses a while ago, and so they'll have some knowledge coming into the course. But it's also a way for you to start to see where your students might, have some extra needs. So maybe you find that looking at this pre-assessment that students clearly are struggling with fractions, and that might be something you need to go back and give them some extra content on, because that's something that this particular group of students you're working with, has a need for. Kind of in each module, they go through that kind of looking content, doing practice, and you'll see a graded quiz here at the end. If you do integrate with the learning management system, and again, I'll show that in a few minutes, then the grades from the graded activities would flow right into the grade book for your LMS. So for Blackboard, for example, it'll go right into the grade center in Blackboard. And actually, I forgot to mention earlier, but there's a nice, let me see, I think this one, not sure if anybody's familiar with Desmos, but it's a really powerful web-based graphing calculator. And we've partnered with Desmos to allow us to not just use the calculator within OHM, but also to develop and author questions that use the graphing calculator. And we've recently introduced the capability of instructors being able to develop them yourself. So if you're used to using Desmos, or even if you're not, you can now bring your Desmos interactives directly into OHM and build these types of things yourselves, which I think not everybody's going to want to do, but is I think fun for some people and also very powerful. But let me just see if you're not familiar. I always forget which one of these is a good example, so bear with me as I kind of poke around. I think here. So I teach math myself, or used to when I had more free time. And I really like these kinds of ways for students to visualize more complex math concepts. So here they're looking at how the slope changes, obviously, the direction of the line, and how that slope is going to, continue as you change the slope for both lines, they remain parallel. And so not parallel, yes, parallel. So I think for students who don't have the same kind of quantitative kind of thinking process, sometimes it's really hard for them to visualize these things in their heads. And so giving the chance to play around with these things in a more visual way, I think is a really powerful instructional technique. This is also fully accessible, and I don't think I have an easy way of demoing at the moment, but one of the things I think is really cool is that for students who are visually impaired, it has the ability to play a sound that represents curves. So they can actually listen to a sine curve by listening to the changing frequency of this noise. And I think that's just a really creative solution for accessibility. And it comes from the fact that the Desmos team has somebody who's blind is one of the developers. So I think that's just a neat side benefit there. The next thing I want to flip over is show some of the customization capabilities. But again, let me just pause here and see if that's making sense to people. Any initial questions?
Could you just say that word again that you used to describe the auditory signal for someone who has a low vision or blind?
I'm not sure if I used a specific term, but I was basically saying that they can, the frequency or tone of the sound that plays gives them kind of a auditory representation of the curve. So if you can imagine a sine curve, they would hear this changing frequency that would be, following the curve, so they can kind of hear the curve, if that makes sense. Somewhere in here, or there's a demo of it, but I won't take time now to do it. But if you're interested, just I'll email me. I'm happy to share that with folks. But it's pretty cool. Anything else there? Okay, so let me share some high-level customization, and then I'll go a little bit deeper. Lots of capability here that I won't take time to show. So I think since the platform has been developed, with by math and faculty members. I think almost anything math faculty members want to do tends to be possible in the platform. So if there's something you want to not seeing here and you want to be able to do it, just ask the question. I'll do my best to show it. So I just went to this quick rearrange button. This makes it super easy to kind of rearrange content, retitle it. So let's say you really wanted to make this a super challenging class and start with quadratic equations. So I'm going to drag and drop that right to the top. So you can see really easy to move module 8 here to the top. And I'm going to now call this module 0. And maybe I want to call it, equations and other stuff. So it just shows you really simple to make these kind of structural changes to the materials, to the content. You could do that within one of these folders as well. So you can move these things around. You could also go, and I'm going to save those changes. And then you can see I can do things like delete stuff. So maybe I don't want to use module 0 at all. I can just delete that out. You could also hide it from students. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So you can, keep it there for future use if you wanted to. But that kind of customization is, again, just super easy to do. I'll go back to the instructor view here. Also super easy to adjust the questions in these practice activities, add new questions, and also adjust how they're delivered to students. So I'll show that real quick. So let me go back to the, let's see, module 3 here. So here's the practice activity questions on points in the line that we were looking at. So first, let me go into, let me start with the settings actually. And again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through these in super detail, but they give you a sense of all the options here. So some basic things you can set when the practice activity is, the due dates for it, when it's available to students, when it gets hidden. This is a nice feature here called practice mode. That allows you to allow students to continue using the practice activities, and this is probably most relevant for a graded activity like a quiz, so they can keep using the practice with the quiz after the due date. That won't change the grade in the grade book that they got before the due date, but allows them to come in and continue practicing. Let's say they get ready for a midterm or final exam. And that's partially facilitated by the fact that all of these questions are algorithmically generated, meaning that it's the same basic problem, but every time they make a new attempt, it's going to be a different set of numbers they're working with. So that's why being able to, it makes it so that practicing over and over again with the same set of homework questions or problems is effective. Lots of options here about how things are displayed to students, how things go into the grade book. See if there's other things here. There's a nice show work option we recently rolled out. This was something that a lot of faculty members in the pandemic moving online wanted. And so they really wanted a way for students to easily be able, let's say, take a picture of some paper-based work they'd done and submit that along with the right answer so that they could show their work. And so we've introduced this tool to allow you to kind of do that on any question you might want. That's been pretty popular. There's another option in here called late passes. I think this is also very popular. So it gives you the ability to hand out late passes to students at the beginning of the semester. It gives students the ability to extend a due date, let's say by 24 hours on their own. So if you've taught online particularly, or even face-to-face, you've probably had students come email you at Sunday at 11:59 p.m. to say, my dog died, I can't get it done, can I get an extra day? You don't see that until Monday morning, and I have to manually go in and make an adjustment and all that kind of stuff. By giving them these digital late passes, they can just extend that due date their own, but you have full control over that. So you can set penalties if they use late passes. You'll see if they used one. You can decide on a certain assignment not to allow late passes and so forth. So a lot of control over it, but it's a big time saver and having to deal with that manual kind of giving students exceptions when they need an extension. It's in a different place, but it also reminded me here that on accessibility, there's a timed exam multiplier you can give for students. So if you have a student who has a documented learning disability, and let's say they need to get time and a half on all timed exams, you can just go into the roster and in one place to say, give them time and a half, and then any timed exam, they'll get that extra 50% time added to their exam. So that's just another accessibility kind of feature. I think I've probably covered most of the things that would be useful here. Here's where you control when hints and answers give to students and so forth. So let me come back here and show some of the options around customizing question sets. So I'll come down here and we'll wrap up here in a few moments. So go back to that practice activity. And this time I'm going to go to the question area. So here's these 11 questions that we were looking at a few minutes ago. We can do simple things like reorder them. So let's say I want to make this one last. That's simple to do kind of thing. You can also remove them, just delete them and so forth. If you want to add more questions, if you scroll down here a little bit further, it's about 30,000 questions now in this question library. And I'm going to do a quick search of the whole library for the term slope. And page reloads. And now if I scroll down, you'll see literally hundreds of questions are now available that deal with slope. I'll just show you real quick. You can take a nice quick look at these. You get a preview of them, kind of look through them a little bit, see if one of these looks useful to you. So, yep, that one looks good. I'll do that one and this one, and maybe one more. Then you can see it's been automatically checked off. I can just say, go ahead and add these. These are just the defaults in terms of point values and so forth. Now you can see there's 14 questions. It's added those 3 to this question set. So really easy to add questions, remove questions, really customize those to meet your own needs. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into it right now, but you can actually go in and edit the questions themselves, or even author new questions on your own. That requires a little bit of a scripting language to learn how to do that. Excuse me, but we're always happy to run webinars and training sessions for folks who want to go into that level of customization. Okay, I think in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of wrap up by showing how to find these course templates and then quickly show what the integration with Blackboard looks like. Any questions before I kind of shift to move on to that? Okay, so I kind of jumped into this course template. Let me kind of exit back out to the home page. Mine is very cluttered because I do lots of these things. Yours, if you get an account, and I'll show you quickly in a sec how to get a new account. If you want to have all these courses listed on the left, but if you scroll, or I scroll down, you'll see on your screen you'll have this Add New Course button. When you click on that, you can either add a blank course site, and that would be something you'd have to build all the content and all the questions yourselves. I don't think I've ever had anybody do that, but it's there as an option. Most people like these course templates because, again, that gives you all of the content and aligned homework problem sets and quizzes and so forth, but then you can customize that as much as you want. So I'll go there real quick. And you'll see these are all listed here. Again, there's probably 40 of them, 45 now. There's so many that it's helpful to use this filter at the top to filter things out to just what you're interested in. So I can say, all right, let me show you, see what just this college algebra here. Scroll down, you can see now there's a number of different college algebra course templates, and there's different ones because different faculty members have worked with us to set these up. Everybody has a little bit of a different approach and that kind of thing. So you could go in and preview the course. That will put you in as kind of a guest student so you can see it. You won't be able to have any of those tools to change it or so forth. But anytime you want to kind of take a deeper look at it or start setting it up for your own use with your students, you just say copy this course, allow you to make a copy of it in your own account, and then you can make as much changes as you want, won't affect anybody else's version, that kind of thing. In the interest of time, I'm not going to show it, but it also allows, the platform supports the ability to take pieces from any one of these templates and add it to the template you're working on. So let's say you get a copy of the college algebra template, but you have some students that need some more remedial stuff, fractions, whatever, like I was mentioning before, you could go to one of the kind of more the lower level math course templates and say, just bring in the 3 modules on fractions into your college algebra course. Maybe you put it in an appendix or something like that for students to refer to if they need it. So I think that's, again, a really powerful way. You know, you probably wouldn't do that with really expensive content and go tell people to buy a remedial textbook, that kind of thing. But with this kind of stuff, super easy, doesn't add any cost. Obviously, they pull in that other material. In terms of getting an account, many ways of doing that, really just in future reaching out from the OER course catalog that I showed you earlier. But just in case you're a math person, you want to jump in right away, let me just show you a quick option. I'm going to log out here. And this is the login screen for the online homework manager platform. And again, I'm sure we'll be sending this out. It's also being the recording, but it's just ohm.lumenlearning.com, ohm.lumenlearning.com. And you'll notice that there's a link here at the bottom that says request an instructor account. Go there's a quick form to fill out. We just want to verify you're an instructor in an institution and not a student trying to get an account. So fill that out usually within a day, if not sooner. Someone will approve that account, and then you'll be able to sign in and see that home screen just like I was showing you a few minutes ago, and go look at the course templates and do all that kind of fun stuff. For some reason, someone's really excited and wants to do it right now while I wrap up. If you remind me at the end, I can go in and improve your account, but I'll forget, so you got to remind me. All right, so let me move over and quickly show what this looks like in Blackboard. And again, it will look pretty similar and be integrated similarly to other learning management systems, but since Blackboard's in pretty heavy use across SUNY, I usually use this as an example. And let me get into the right one here. The integration process is super easy and fast. Basically, once you get your course set up in OHM the way you want it with the customization set up, you're going to export out one file, import that into your learning management system. We've already worked across SUNY to get the underlying technology to facilitate the setup, so it's all ready to go. You import that one file, then everything I'm about to show kind of automatically gets set up with you in a kind of 2-3 minute process. So there's no copying and pasting, there's no manual work you do to get this into the learning management system. That's all automated. And so this is actually a slightly different, this is the correct version of the college algebra course. So it's not exactly the one I was showing, but it's very similar. So you can see it almost looks already like what we were looking at before with an OHM. And you'll see here's that module 3 that we were looking at within OHM. Since these are native Blackboard modules or folders, though, you can do a lot of customization here in the LMS as well. As you can move these things around, you can delete them, you can retitle them. I'm going to go in here again just to show you kind of how much it looks like what we were just looking at. So again, same kind of stuff that we saw a few minutes ago. I'll go into that same practice activity just to again show you how it looks with the integration. So here's that same thing. Now, since we saw it in OHM, you know this is actually coming from the online homework manager platform, but I think you can tell that for a student, this is such a seamless integration, they almost don't even realize there's another platform being used. So if you do choose to integrate with Blackboard or other LMSs, your students won't be going any place else. They won't sign into OHM directly. They'll never need to go there. They'll just be signing into their Blackboard course site like they normally would and do all of their work within here, not even realizing again that there's another platform being used. If you choose to use OHM by itself, then it's a very quick process to get your students enrolled in your course site there. You basically give them a course ID that's assigned to every course and what's called an enrollment key. They go to that same site I was showing you the login screen, and they can enroll in the course that way. So either one is very easy to use. Okay, I think the last part here is to go and show the SUNY OER catalog and how that works. Now you can find courses there and request them. Any other questions? Anything popping in there?
Josh, Diane asked a question if OHM integrates with D2L, Canvas, Moodle, and Blackboard. And yes, all major LMS OHM does integrate with. Great question.
Yep. It uses the LTI integration standard for anybody's familiar with that, which is a very common integration technology or protocol. Any questions? Okay, so let me just wrap up by showing everybody, if you haven't seen it yet, hopefully you have, the OER, SUNY OER Ready Throughout course catalog. So it's just oer.suny.edu. I have 2 high school students doing remote learning today, so it's a little slow. Apologies there. At least they're supposed to be doing remote learning. They might be doing something else. Right, here we go. So you can see this, I think Jody was saying 120 courses in the catalog. So there's a lot here. So these buttons at the top allow you to filter courses based on, subject area. And so I'll go to the math here. Oops, I think I clicked it twice. There we go. So then it's going to display the math courses for you. So you'll see, all the courses that are kind of represented in those course templates. You'll also see courses from Carnegie Mellon's Open Learning Initiative, OLI. So that's one of the other partners that Tony mentioned. And so their courses are also here in the catalog. Their platform works a little bit differently than the Online Homework Manager platform, but it's super powerful and takes a very similar kind of approach from a learning sciences perspective. In fact, a lot of our work has been very influenced by Carnegie Mellon over the last 10 years or so. So you see a lot of similarities there. You'll also see a few courses, not many, but a few courses are also available as Waymaker courses, math courses, that is. And there's a few in here that for a range of kind of more pedagogical reasons, we've used the Waymaker personalized learning platform to support those rather than OHM. So any one of these, I'm trying to find the college algebra one. Here we go. So this is kind of the one we were looking at before. You can come in here and take a closer look at it. So it gives you a little description of the course, tells you a little bit about where the content came from and so forth. And then if you want to look at just the digital content, so this is really just the digital textbook, you can go view the course content. And this will give you oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. We actually, this is great. We ended up linking right out to the course template. So this will bring you right into the course template. So you'll see the full textbook and all the aligned practice problems that used to just go to the digital textbook. So I was forgetting that we've made that change. So that's an easy way to just go in and kind of look through here, see if it's going to meet your needs. And then if you're interested in getting a copy of it, I'll show you the two different options here. Go back to this course description page. If you click the Explore This Course button, fill out this form, someone will follow up. If you don't already have an Online Homework Manager account, they'll get you an account, and they'll kind of put a copy of this course template in your account so you can start looking at it and working on it. The alternative, if you want to kind of do some of this more of your own, would be the request your own OHM account first, and then you can go and make copies of the templates as much as you might want. But either approach is fine to use in terms of reviewing materials and asking for copies to work on yourself. So with that, I think I've covered everything, unless I've forgotten something, Tony, you can remind me about. And again, I see Joanne is here too. So anybody who's used the platform wants to jump in and maybe correct something I've said or comment on, that's fine too. But let me stop here and take other questions or see if there's anything else people wanted to see more details on.
Yeah, Josh, I just shared in the chat. If you have any questions about OHM or any other courseware for that matter, you can drop us a line at OER@SUNY.edu and we'll respond quickly.
Tony, if I may, I'd also just like to point out that we have a fantastic network of folks who have been using these tools and doing OER in a variety of ways in different disciplines. And so I would encourage you, to email to that address too, and they can hook you up with other faculty who can help you as well. And you can have a mentor sort of in your discipline.
Absolutely. Thanks, Erin. We've got one of them with us, as Josh pointed out, Sophia. She's been very active in the chat. We're talking about how she uses the tools and some helpful tips here. So we appreciate that, Sophia.
Yeah, one thing that I didn't touch on too much is that, because it's a little of a deeper topic, is that there are a lot of ways of using tools within the platform, the gradebook and roster, for example, to identify students who are struggling in courses, do that really early on in the semester and then reach out to them. And that's a core kind of strategy that we really promote in terms of improving course grades and completion rates. So if there's interest in doing a deeper dive on that kind of thing, again, just send an email to that OER address and we can follow up on it.
I do have a request, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Would you be able to go back to the catalog listing of the courses, and just, if you don't mind, if you have time, walk me through quickly, no details, where I can find anything on teacher education?
Sure. So unless, Tony, I'm forgetting something, I don't think you're going to find teacher education courses in the catalog, which is really just because those tend to be more upper level courses, and these are really just general ed, introductory kind of courses. There are probably a few, maybe, Tony, from more open textbooks that I know SUNY has supported.
Yeah, we frequently get questions like that. And again, not everything is on the catalog, but if you reach out to us at that email address, OER@SUNY.edu, we can try to connect you with some of the resources that we might be familiar with that exist outside of our catalog.
Thank you.
The other thing I would point to, but this is not going to directly answer your question, is there's things like Intro to Psych and lifespan development and some of those courses, which I imagine might be early courses in a teacher ed sequence. But other questions that I can't be super helpful with.
I do see a question. Oh, go ahead, Tony.
Sorry, I was just going to add that we do have a feature on the OER.SUNY.edu page. If you go to the resources, you'll see a place where you can connect with other faculty. I mean, it's still relatively new, so I don't know that there's a tremendous list there, but you can connect with others to share with them what you're doing and maybe draw from their experience and collaborate that way as well. So it's a great networking tool that we provide. Again, that's on the resources link.
Erin, were you saying there was another question?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure if Catherine's question hasn't been addressed yet. So Catherine asks, are the materials provided by the textbook publishers tested for accessibility, or are we taking the publisher's word for it? So the platform itself is accessible, correct?
Yeah, so we have VPATs for all of our platforms, which are linked off of various places, but we could send those out if people want to see the kind of reviews that were done there. We work very closely with SUNY's accessibility office, Nasli over there, to make sure that we're in full compliance. There's some new requirements actually that SUNY is putting out around the level of criteria that we have to meet to be compliant, and we're about to finish our work to reach that level of compliance. So it's always a moving target. So I think anybody that says you're not going to find any issues in any of the content would probably not be being accurate about it. But we take it very seriously. And I think if you talk to anybody in SUNY, whenever there is a report of something that's not accessible, we make it a super high priority to go in and address that very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we are at time, or just slightly over. I just want to thank Josh and Tony today, and also Sophia, for sharing your tips and how you use all of this in the chat. That's been really helpful as well to hear your perspective. We do have our recordings and a link to those and a link to the survey. I'll post those here for you in the chat. And I'm going to stop this recording, but make sure to mention to you